Hey everyone. I just wanted to hop on here today and talk about a topic that I haven't done on video yet, but I talk to a lot of you all about face to face and just in real life. So the topic is homeschooling, which actually is a huge topic for our family because it is a large part of our life aside from Lyme disease, which you hear me talk about a lot as well. So I thought I'd share in here how homeschooling and Lyme disease actually tie in together in our lives, which may not seem obvious, but once you hear, you'll get it. There's definitely a correlation. And I thought I'd also talk a little bit about the kind of the philosophy and method of homeschooling we currently use and why. Um, but I also hesitate a little bit because I am no expert and I certainly don't think that there is one right way or an only way to do things. Not at all. In fact, the beauty to me is the freedom to be eclectic and to choose from whatever you want to choose from when you are homeschooling, which can also be overwhelming. And that brings me full circle to why I decided to actually do this video so that I could talk about why we picked kind of the direction we picked to head. And how it is kind of a mishmash still, even though we have preferences in our family. So, the way homeschooling ties into Lyme disease, well, it all starts back to the fact that I grew up homeschooled. I was homeschooled all the way through graduation, and it was a really good experience for me. And I kind of always thought I would end up homeschooling my own kids. So it just was kind of meant to be, kind of always on my mind, and kind of always a goal of mine. The reason I saw the benefits so much as a kid was because when I was so sick with Lyme, as a high schooler, middle into high school, and then throughout most of high school, I was lucky to be homeschooled. That was the only reason I graduated on time. I didn't miss months or years of school. It's because I had the flexibility and the freedom to work around my medical needs, my appointments, my energy levels. And because of that, I was still able to meet all my credit requirements on time, graduate, go on to nursing school, become a nurse, work that life, and heal all along the way as well. So for me, homeschooling is a lot about freedom and just flexibility when you need it most. So that translated into me meeting my husband, who came from a family that also homeschooled. And so here we are, second generation homeschoolers with 4 kiddos of our own. At the time of this recording, 8 and under. So we are still in the elementary school years. My oldest will be 3rd grade. So I'll have a 3rd grader, a 2nd grader, roughly. Grades are kind of flexible in homeschooling too, but 3rd, 2nd, kindergartner this year, and the proverbial class clown, the toddler. That's a whole other video, how to entertain your toddler while homeschooling. I still don't feel like I can even tell you anything. I'm figuring it out as I go. But so we're in the elementary school age range, right? And I don't have middle and high school experience yet, but I am always kind of thinking ahead to that season of life and, goals through the big picture. But on the flip side, I will tell you this as well. We take homeschooling year by year. We take our choices around our kids' education year by year. At the end of the day, I believe the parent has the right and the responsibility to choose what's best for their child's educational there go my notes educational path. And ours, we didn't know. I mean, ours was going to look like this. We wanted to homeschool, but we didn't know we were going to have 4 kids. I couldn't have predicted that. We didn't know our kids would have Lyme disease. So as of this recording, my oldest 3, who are all my daughters, all girls, they all have Lyme and co-infections. And we'll find out, I guess, over time with my son. But I'm not worried about it. We have flexibility and freedom to do what we need to do for their treatment. And homeschooling is part of that. So this is where it ties into Lyme, because I want to be able to do things with my kids on an educational level and a fun level too. We really felt like homeschooling was going to be the best fit. And now that we have kids that technically have an illness process and a healing journey ahead of them, I'm even more glad that we wanted to and chose to homeschool, because now it allows us to go to appointments, have freedom with our treatment plan and our treatment options. It allows us to go do school on the road if we want, flexibility all around. And for us as a family, it's part of our family's freedom journey, if you will. Freedom of health and wellness, freedom of finances, freedom of time, and freedom to educate ourselves, all grown-ups included, the way we want to and in the manner and time frame that we want to. So all of this is part of the big picture why we chose it. Some of the complicating factors, you could call them, but I think they're blessings and just pieces of the puzzle. Everyone has pieces of their own puzzle. We have two in-home businesses, my husband and I. I still work part-time as a nurse as well. We have 4 kids and we have Lyme to navigate and treatment plans and protocols to navigate there. So it's busy, but everyone's busy. And if we can do it, truly, it's not a trite message. It's not just me saying this. If we can do it, anybody can. All right. Now, there are so many options for educating your kids at home out there, so many ways you can do things. I will say this. I'm not going to get into all of them. You can Google educational philosophies and styles and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter a ton, except that if you're overwhelmed, it can provide you some guidance and some idea of what might be a good fit for you based on your preferences and your style. But again, like I said earlier, the beauty of all of this is pulling from wherever you want to pull from. And there's not going to be a right or a wrong, I guess, as long as you're meeting the requirements that you're required to in your state by law, right? So let's talk about our family. We kind of have a classical education side to us. We like classical education. I was kind of classically homeschooled, classical education homeschooled myself, even though that wasn't as much of like a title back then. And I don't even think it was intentional. I think it was just my mom's preference, my parents' preference too, and just what I enjoyed learning and how I enjoyed learning. So there was a piece of classical education in my life all along the way, unofficially. We chose primarily a classical education path for our kids right now, but we are also infusing that with a lot of other concepts. Most notably, probably to you all, would be Charlotte Mason. So if you're like, what is Charlotte Mason? What is classical education? There's a little bit even of Waldorf and Montessori and probably a little unschooling thrown in there too some days. But what is all that? Well, you know what, guys? Truly, go Google educational philosophies and homeschooling styles and homeschooling philosophies, and you will find quick, easy explanations of that. I can tell you that classical education does involve learning like they did in classical times, learning from the great philosophers and learning from rhetoric and learning from all the bigwigs, Plato and Plutarch and Hippocrates and all those guys, Aristotle, learning from them and further into modern day as well. Learning in a style that's, I would say, pretty well rounded and comprehensive, includes things like Latin, and you can look at the key components of classical education involving like astronomy and geography and specific pieces of learning that are emphasized. But there are a lot of reasons why we went down this path. And like I said, I'm going to talk about some of them here, but I do like that at the end of it all, there is a basis for critical thinking and logical reasoning. And I can tell you right now that that suits my kids really well. Look, if they're going to argue with me, I want them to be able to argue well, right? That is a big piece of it for us in this day and age, especially. I want my kids to have a well-developed worldview around our beliefs and philosophies, around their beliefs and philosophies. And I think that this way of learning will really help them with that. I also don't have a problem with them learning Latin and other things. I think that the cool thing about classical education is that it kind of incorporates the reason and meaning behind all of that. Why Latin can still be valuable even today. Why math has a greater purpose than just number crunching, and how math might relate to history, and how English might relate to art and science, and the integration of subjects, I guess, is what also really appeals to me too, from the classical perspective. But is it perfect? No, no educational philosophy is. We just find it suits our family style. So you have to do what works for you. And like I said, I integrate a lot of Charlotte Mason, which is about beautiful learning and kind of like a slower approach and a more I don't know. I keep thinking like it's just a beautiful approach to learning where you really observe the world around you and you really pull from a lot of lovely resources for forming thoughts. It also integrates other subjects. So again, you might be doing English and studying art at the same time, and how poetry fits into that, and how, other philosophies fit into whatever subject you're studying. So I think it lends itself really well to like being in a classical education world too for our family. Okay, all that to say, um, the first point that I was going to make about classical education was partly that I do like the subject matter. I do like how it's presented in general. Um, Again, for now at least, subject to change. I give myself full permission to change my mind at any time. But right now, this is like a really cool path that we're on, and we really love how it fits with us. Additionally, there's a huge memorization component. So this is still my point number one about classical education. A huge memorization component in a fun way. And I really like that because it also works well for our kids. And I'm finding it works well for me and my husband. We are learning so much just from hearing, sing-song ways of memorizing things. And we're able to better, now that I've done this for a few years, I think we're able to better see the timeline of history for what it really is. And the timeline of that includes, I guess, science too, and math and English and rhetoric and all the things, because it's kind of laid out for us in how we're doing classical education. And we are doing classical conversations, which is the one of a few different classical education groups out there that you can be a part of if you choose to. So I'm going to talk more about that in a minute as well. But the second reason I love the way we are educating, and it's not just applicable to classical education, this point is applicable across the board. It's a piece of advice and a bonus that I love about homeschooling multiple kids at one time. We do a lot, and we were able to do a lot within our particular way of homeschooling as a group. So like not everything we're doing is very specifically grade specific. I'm able to tailor our topics of history, science, art, music, stuff like that to all my kids, kindergarten, second, third, and I will be able to do that for a while. I can see ahead. And I love that. They're all getting benefit at their own level. So other than pretty much language arts and math, and even a little bit of language arts and math we can do together, but those are the subjects that are pretty much more grade and kid specific. Everything else we do as a group, as a family. It's like one room schoolhouse, modern day one room schoolhouse, truly. So I love that. Saves me time and energy. Again, I'm a working mom with a lot going on, right? Aren't we all busy, busy? It's really nice to be able to condense our workload into meaningful, short amounts of time, right? Um, like I said, that point is not just applicable to classical education, though. It lends itself well to that. I don't need a different full curriculum for every single kid in this case. Now let's talk about classical conversations, the classical community we're a part of. I like classical conversations a lot. It's a once a week community that we go to throughout the school year. That was something that was important to me. I wanted us to have that experience, to get out of the house, to have a school day that was different than being at home for it, to have obviously interaction with other people, have a classroom setting. They have it set up so you have tutors or specific paid teachers that teach your kids that day, and you learn the grammar, or it's not just English grammar, the topics of study for each subject in that classroom setting. So then you as the parent take that information home with you. You're a part of the classroom setting with your kids. You take that home and you review it all week long. And that, to me, is part of the beautiful framework. And the third reason I love classically educating is this community, and how it's set up. So for me as a working mom, it's great because even if I don't plan, even if I don't lesson plan, even if I get off track or I forget to look ahead at what's coming, I still have the ability to go off of what we are learning that week and to just supplement. So CC is not a full curriculum in that. I do still do language arts and math additionally, and I'm talking in the elementary year specifically right now. I'm not talking higher level grades yet because we're not there yet in CC. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I supplement with my own phonics or language arts and math, but CC's topics and weekly sentences, they're basically sentences in small paragraphs that cover every subject. Um, they guide us. So if there's a topic we're studying, like for example, this year we're going to be doing a ton of American history. That's the kind of one of the main themes of the history part this year. I can, and it will go chronologically pretty much. It will be a timeline based study. So I can go to the library or pull from my bookshelf, my Usborne books, my other supplemental books that a lot of which are Charlotte Mason style too. I don't do a ton of textbooks unless I'm just using them to supplement. I don't buy a whole other curriculum because what we're learning each week is our topic. It's very cool. And then CC is set up with repetition. So there are 3 main years of cycles that you do, and then you repeat them throughout the whole way up. So you know if you miss something one year or if you don't love a topic one year, you're going to get back to it another year, especially if you've done CC from the very beginning. So it's a very cool setup for us that I feel relief about. I feel like the framework is there. The guidelines are kind of there for me. If I want to use them, great. If I want to do something else, I can. There's no rule saying I can't deviate from the plan, right? But I feel like I, as a working mom, don't have to work my buns off to make lesson plans and to have a plan every single week because, excuse me, I know we will. I know we will have a plan through CC. So I love that about it. If you have any questions, I'm here for it. I will end it at that. This is just like I said, a video to talk briefly about why we love classical conversations and CC, our classical, no, it's a video to talk about why I like classical education and specifically CC, classical conversations, the group we're a part of, and how it just can work in your life and how we are able to make it our own by taking that framework and building around it as a family. So we are just getting started into our school year this year. I know that at the time of this recording, COVID is really impacting how people are going to look at school in the fall. And I just wanted to let you know I'm here. I'm here to talk about whatever. If you would like to talk about it, if you'd like to vent, and if you'd like to hear more about what we are specifically doing, I believe every parent has it in them to do what is necessary for their child's education. I'll say it that way. And I think every parent can homeschool in their own way. So I encourage you to not let it overwhelm you as best you can, to find your resources, find your people, and go forth making the best decision possible for you and your family. But like I said, I am here too as one of your resources if you'd like to chat more. All right, have a great day.